The real Dana, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. So, though I've seen you collaborating with Minister Jap, that was the first time I saw you. We've also worked together on Case Closed, which is Ike Ogihamian and my panel show, where we kind of talk about, you know, politics and dating stuff and just trending topics. It's a really good panel. And the first time you were on there, I knew that I wanted to have you back as frequently as possible because you add a lot of value, have a particular perspective, and you
Yeah.
don't sort of shy away from controversial topics or anything. It seems like that's your wheelhouse. So, how did you meet Minister Jap?
I don't know. Because it's been some years. I know him years, but
Mm.
I knew of him when I was on Star in the Morning. I did a show on the Star Report. It was called Star in the Morning, and I remember him calling in one day, and he was talking about Black women and single mothers and stuff, and he was being interviewed by Star. So that's where I was um not formally but informal introduced to him informally. And I don't know how we like, because that's my friend in real life. So but I don't know if I reached out to him to interview him on my, I think that's how it went, but we just got along. So and then so we exchanged numbers, so I could communicate with him when you're going to come on my YouTube channel when I started mine's like 4 years ago or whatever. So I think that's how that started, and then I just kept communicating with him when we was communicating back and forth, and it just built up into a friendship. So yeah, but it's like, and that's weird because I have to sit here and think, how did we? I think I'm thinking about, okay, how did this develop into a friendship? Because it wasn't, I didn't meet him in person yet, but yeah, it started from the Star Report. And I believe when I started my YouTube channel, I invited him on, and then we just kept in touch, and then it just grew into a friendship.
Now, Minister Jap is a pretty edgy kind of content, and he says a lot of what people consider to be pretty derogatory stuff. Seems to be focused at black women. Not all black women, but a particular type of black woman. So, in a matter of speaking, it on the surface, it may seem a little strange that you would be friends with Minister Jap, and then that you'd be able to do shows together that were constructive. Because every time you're on the show, it's very, I mean, he's, there's like some jabbing. He's jabbing you, you're jabbing him, and stuff like that. It's friendly kind of jabbing, but it's very productive, good conversation, and, a lot of detail. So
Yeah, I
why
mean,
do you
he's
think, what,
not.
so
I think
why do you
people.
think,
Oh, wait a
yeah,
minute.
yeah, I'm sorry. Why do you think that, that you're able to have those sort of constructive conversations, though he's pretty has a particular angle.
Because he doesn't disrespect his guests.
Mm.
So, when you interact with him, he's not disrespectful. When you coming on his platform, or if he invites you on or you invite him onto yours, he's not disrespectful. He's very professional. So that's how you
Yep.
could interact. So it's like, yeah, we don't agree on things, and that makes for a good discussion. It makes for a good show because you're going back and forth because you disagree, but he's not disrespectful. There's been people, I've been on people in the past, people's YouTube platforms, and they were just disrespectful. So, and I would never deal with them again. But he's not like that. I've never seen him disrespect somebody, a guest on his platform, and I never see him disrespect someone on theirs. So his content is very straight cut, so he does not sugarcoat it, but I remember, so the reason why, like, some women just don't like him because of his content. And when I first heard of him and listened to some of the things he said when he was being interviewed by the Star, you know, Star asked him, why you go so hard on Black women all the time? He was like, because that's the only women I deal with. And so when he made that comment, that was during the morning show, I was like, I would, that's when I said to myself, okay, I could deal with him. Like, I'm not going to come at him, you know, in a defense, because during the morning show, we could ask people questions. So if I didn't really like what you were saying, I'm coming at you in a, like a, what do you call it? Adversary kind of way. So, but when he made that comment, that's in my head, I'm like, okay, let me back off, because that's acceptable for me. Like, if you only deal with Black women, yeah, you could criticize a certain type of Black women or Black women in general, as opposed to men comparing Black women to other women, saying other people are better. No, I deal with them, so I'm going to critique them. And I do respect him for that. So yeah, but he's always professional. That's why he's a very good talent.
Yeah, he's super talented.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is he is much more well-read and actually understands the stuff that he's talking about much more than it may seem on the surface. It might seem like he's just telling jokes and he's just, you know.
Well, for the most part, he is. But I think as far as a YouTube content creator, he does have that it factor. He could tell a story and it'd be interesting because he has the sound effects, his thumbnails. Like, he's very talented when it comes behind the scenes. And a lot of people don't understand is there are YouTube content creators that don't have a lot of followers, that don't have a lot of live views, but they're very talented because of their editing, their technology setup, you know, and their actual content and their delivery of it. So.
Yeah, you know, I met Jap at the Conference of Masculine Excellence, and that's Donovan Sharp's conference. Mm-hmm. And the first one was in June, this past June. It was out in Vegas, and Jap was at the conference, and of course I knew who he was, and I had been following him for a while, and so met him in person, and super nice guy. He's been very supportive. I've had him on this program, Conversations with Dr. Thunder, and we have planned at some point for me to come on his platform. But I totally agree. I think he's totally professional, super talented, and the first time I interacted with him, I called in on his show, and this is it must be a couple years ago now, and it was his birthday, and he doesn't usually allow people to come in through StreamYard, right? That's not the way he does it. He always uses like a phone number for people to call in. But this time he had folks call in on StreamYard. So I called in and I asked him a couple questions about his sort of religious background, because he makes certain comments every once in a while about that. But he was in the Nation of Islam for like 6 or 7 years. And so a lot of the stuff that he says is actually fueled by him having a sort of direct knowledge of certain things. It's not just it's not just like him, you know, saying stuff off the top of his head. And so anyhow, so that was my sort of initial interaction with him. I like Jap also because he is he's an advocate for Black men. He is telling things from our perspective, and I think that and I basically pretty much I can get with anybody that is telling something from our perspective, because our perspective is not the common perspective. It's not the thing that you see in the news usually. Almost nobody really cares about what our perspective is. And so that was...
Thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, There are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
Yes. And so that was one of the things that sort of drew me to, checking him out and interacting with him and stuff. So speaking of advocacy for black men and boys, I mean, on one of the Case Closed programs, I think we were talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson, and I said that I was not in favor, and I have a particular bias. Some folks will try to act like they're fair and balanced, and they just see things for, they're all totally quantitative, and I say, no, that's, I don't usually trust folks that talk that way. I will tell you straight up what my bias is, and that's black men and boys.
Right.
So in your content, in particular, you have a program with Judge Joe Brown on your platform. You obviously, you advocate for black men. So why is that? And is that something that you've always sort of done, or did you grow into that? And then why did you grow into that?
Well, I advocate for black people, not just black men, because I'm not a man, so I can't really talk for a man, and I don't want to, because that's not my job. That's your job as men. But
your show,
yeah,
though.
that particular show that I do with the judge is called Man Up, because that is his vision and that is his purpose. The judge is retired from television. However, he does enlighten people and educate people and share his knowledge on social media, and that is his objective, is man up, bringing manhood back, masculinity back, not just in the community, but to help men, all men. And he knows, particularly when it comes to black men, they need not special attention, but it needs to be specific. But his message is not just solely for black men, but just all men. But again, he does a lot of times zoom into black people. So, but that show, yes, it is Man Up, and it's about manhood, masculinity, and all those good things. And he's basically the showrunner. I'm just there to facilitate the process of the show. And then I have a panel, and all of the panel are men, and it's only right. So, and I think because men are not monolithic. They come with their own views and perspectives and opinions. And I like to hear different perspectives, different ages, different generations, different walks of life, which is very important. But what I found out, that a lot of times it does come back to that common denominator, of manhood. So yeah, so I wouldn't say that I'm just solely an advocate for black men. I do have a son, and which is why I do advocate for support black men. But my overall objective is black people and also all Americans. So, because I really don't want my channel to be a black channel. But it is because I do want to reach out to other race, nationalities, and other countries. So, but within my heart and my mind and a lot of my objective content, my content is mainly catered around black issues, but I try to expand it to make it, how does the black issues intertwine with American issues, because it does, and vice versa. So like, what's going on in American society, how is that affecting black people? What is going on with black people? How is that affecting, or how is that contributing to the American society and internationally as well? So, yeah.
So, so as I said before, it seems as though you sort of, you thrive in sort of an adversarial sort of setting where you need to defend a particular perspective. Is that something that you've always been good at and have always sort of welcomed, or is it something that you? I mean,
What do you mean?
I assume that you've become I assume that you've become better at it as you've
At
had
what?
to do it more. Well, most folks don't like being put under the gun, or they don't want to be in the hot seat. You know, like they, you know, if you have a conversation or something with folks, like if you start to take a different sort of angle on something, a lot of folks, they just shut down. It's like, oh, well, okay, well, that's your thing. I don't want to argue, you know, that kind of thing. That it seems to me that you have particular perspectives and you're willing to defend those perspectives.
I think everyone should. Like, I mean, if you're,
but everyone doesn't.
No, everyone doesn't. But I mean, just because everyone doesn't, that don't mean I'm not going to. I think everybody should be themselves. Do what makes you feel comfortable. If you don't want to defend your opinion, your perspective, okay, then you don't. But I do. But if I do, don't think that I'm being difficult, because it's really you being difficult because you don't want to defend what you stand on. Maybe some people just don't stand for anything or whatever, or I don't know, but that's their prerogative. But just because someone is doing the opposite of you doesn't mean that they're being difficult. You know, we don't have to agree. We don't have to share the same perspective, opinions. But at the end of it all, you know, you really have to show respect. And that's one thing about me. I don't disrespect people. The only time that people have ever seen me like cut somebody out or come at somebody, that's because they came at me first. But, you know, I could sit up here and me and you could have a discussion and just don't agree. And I could, you know, we just come from two different perspectives on something. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to disrespect you or that I should disrespect you. We could still be respectful of each other, but we're just not in agreement.
So case in point, on Case Closed, towards the end of an episode, Game Changer came up on the on the panel, and you were talking about mental slavery.
Am I looking at you right now?
I'm sorry?
Am I looking at you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because my camera is here, but your video is here. It's so weird.
Right. Yeah, you're looking at me.
Okay.
So anyhow, Game Changer comes up, and he is basically taking a tack that is, he doesn't agree with what you're saying about the mental slavery being the worst of the two, you know, slavery and mental slavery or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that actually we ended up with another episode that was on that topic the next week, because it was I had some sound effects and stuff for it. It was it was some fireworks. Mm-hmm. So what I want to ask you is, what do you mean by mental slavery?
You take the word slave, but you put it not in a term of physical, but mental.
Right.
Dr. Thunder, don't play with me. You are a college professor.
But, okay, so in the Black community in particular, you think that mental slavery is maybe a primary issue?
What do
you
mean?
Think that's the issue that's sort of causing most of our problems?
Yeah, because we're no longer physically enslaved, you know, because slavery ended in 1865. Well, actually 1862, but we're no longer physically enslaved unless you are in prison, because, you know, 13th Amendment. So when you look at the state of Black people today in America, and honestly, Black people abroad as well, but let's just focus here in America. When you look at the state of Black people and the things that we do, the things that we spend our money on, or our behavior, or what we consider as a priority, it's not beneficial to us as a culture, as a race. We should already have had reparations. We should already have had all types of laws and executive orders and initiatives specifically for us African Americans, and we do not, because we don't fight for it. We don't pay attention. We are committed to a particular party, the Democratic Party now, and we think that they're just supposed to save us. And as long as we vote them in, they're going to take care of us and help us. And that's not how politics works. We are not involved in the science of politics like we should, particularly where we live at on a local level, which is very important. So if you are not aware of what is going on around you, what is going on in this nation, and even throughout the world, but if you are not aware, if you are not trying to do anything to enlighten yourself or to better your situation, yes, that is mental slavery. When I also said when we did the show, because you came in later on that show, but I said in the beginning of that mental slavery show, because the previous show before that, towards the end, that wasn't a topic, mental slavery, but when Game Changer came on to push back against that, he was like, well, how many Black people are mentally enslaved? Like, it was an actual number. And I was just like, a lot. So the following week when we did the show, I said, you know what? I have the answer to that question for him. He wasn't on it yet. I was like, but the same, all the Black people that voted for Biden and the Democrats, those are all the people that are mentally enslaved. So if you want a number, those millions of Black people that voted for Joe Biden, that's the amount of people that are amount of Black people that are mentally enslaved.
Jim Crow Joe.
Right.
That's great.
I'm sitting like, those little kid chairs, because the table is very low, so I'm sitting on a little kid chair. I got this cushion, but it's kind of like, it's hard. Like, how these kids sit on these little hard ass chairs? It's my grandkids' chair.
So, yeah, the politics thing is a real challenge.
I think because we're focused on a federal, and I think that people don't understand your state affects you first and most of all, because state is separate from federal. States are sovereignty. The Constitution is there to protect the state from the federal government coming in trying to dictate. So we're always debating, voting, and focusing on the national. And it's like, you gotta understand, what is Congress made of? Congress is made of the House and the Senate, but those are your local state representative that you voted in. So they're supposed to be not just voting on a federal level, what happens in the national. Those people those 2 or 3 people who you voted for in your state to go to Congress, they are also voting they are voting for laws in your state, in your district. That is what's going to that's what affects us, every American, the most. So locally, you should be attending local community meetings. You don't have to do it weekly, whether it's school board, neighborhood watch, we don't do that.
Nope. What we do is we do the try to guilt other folks into voting in national elections, and but then once the national election is over, then we don't say anything. Nobody is talking about contacting their representative, which is the true power in a representative democracy, by the way. Nobody is
But
suggesting
that's their job, to answer your phone call and to hear your issues, and they're supposed to help you solve it.
Yep.
Because I've did that.
Yep.
I've done that when COVID first hit and I was laid off, and you apply for unemployment. The system crashed, and I live in tri-state area, so I worked in New York, so I had to apply for New York, not New Jersey. I could apply for New Jersey, but that just would have been too much of a hassle. But New York, New Jersey, the system crashed because millions of people were laid off. So I had to apply for New York, and I had hit I stagnated for a minute. I called my local representative in my city, who is a state representative, but her district is where I live at. Called her office. I didn't speak to her, but I spoke to her assistant, and she contacted. Well, I gave her a politician in New York. It was anyone, but it was the one. This is the only politician that I trust, and I can't think of his name. Out of Brooklyn, I can't think of his name. I'm about to Google it, but so I had her contact his office, and because when you reach out to your local politicians, and you have them contact certain other politicians, whether it's on the states or districts, you get a response quicker. And then they reached out to me. I told them my problem. And then they reached out to the state of New York, unemployment, and my paperwork was extradited, quicker. So that state level, local, state, city, local level politician, state representative, whose district is my district in my city, her office did their job. But if I was like majority of people, if that, you're just sitting there complaining, constantly calling unemployment, hoping and praying or whatever, but you really have to reach out to your local politician and say, hey, I have this problem. And if they don't help you, then you let them know you don't have my vote, and I'm going to canvass to make sure that other people don't vote for you. And I bet you'll get a different response and attitude from them.
Yeah. That's just not the approach that most folks take. They think that once they voted, hey, I did my civic responsibility or whatever, and so now I'm off the hook. I don't need to do anything else. And I think that's a big problem. I've been a third-party voter probably the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just don't trust the two-party system has not been particularly beneficial for black folks. If you consider that we are where we are, and Dems and Republicans are jointly culpable, right? Because they've been the ones that have been in power. So I've just decided that I'm unplugging from that matrix. I'm not going
what
to
matrix of
participate
voting
in that.
Democrat or just not voting?
Well, just the two-party system thing.
Okay.
I just don't think of it as a binary sort of proposition.
Let me just do a FYI. Representative Charles Barron out of Brooklyn, New York. That was the state representative Charles Barron. That's the only politician that I trust. Okay, but go ahead. So, but I see what you're saying. However, even if you but when it's election season, the majority is Republican and Democrat. That's the majority.
Yep.
So, and depending on where you live as a black person, if it's a majority black population there, it's going to be Democrat.
Yep.
But and just because they're Democrat, you could who is that person? You could vote the right person, whether they're a Democrat or Republican. For instance, this past fall in New Jersey, it was the governor, and it was a county execs, and I forgot what they call it, something else. These are the people that approve contracts, whatever. So that was on the ballot. I voted Republican straight down. That was the first time I saw Republicans on a local level, on a county level. They were all women too, on the Republicans, right? On a county. And and I usually it's just Democrat. So that was the first time I saw a Republican. But as far as the governor, I voted Republican. I just voted Republican straight down. And a lot of times, and I learned just from the judge, because he said it, he was like, some people feel as though, vote down ballot, or don't vote at all. No, if you want to get the attention, especially of the Democrat Party, if you vote for their adversaries, that will wake people up a lot of times. Just like if you're a man and you're a woman, you're in a relationship, and your woman ain't doing what she's supposed to be doing, right? Wife or your girlfriend, whether she ain't screwing you right or at all, or not cooking and cleaning or whatever, soon as you walk out that door and you get with a woman that's doing the things that she ain't doing, that's when she want to wake up like, oh, okay, I'm about to lose my man. So what I got to do to change? So when you go to the other side, that's when people start realizing, okay, I'm starting to lose my base here. Well, you start to lose your base because you're not doing your job.
Nice colorful example there.
That's why you married.
Yeah. No, and I agree. I agree that if more black folks would say, you know what, just for this election, we're going to at least pretend like we're not going to go 95% for Democrats. Let's just pretend like we're going to do something else, and let's just act like maybe we'll act like we're going to vote for Republicans, but we won't do that. We are so sold out that there's no leverage. There's no
pushback. But that's that mental slavery, because you're so stuck on the Chitlin circuit that you're afraid to go to the other side, and I think, and people, Trump was so funny, but I appreciated him because he was radical in a sense, because he was not a politician, right? So you have a non-politician in the White House. He was a businessman, and I think that was more beneficial, right? I think that's better than being a lifetime politician. But what he said, he was like, and for African Americans, what do you got to lose? You remember he said that? This is where he was up against Hillary. What you got to lose? But he was right. What you got to lose? Because when you keep voting Democrat, you keep losing. We keep losing. Now, I did vote for Hillary when he ran, because I'm like, yo, he's batshit crazy. But then I'm so glad he won, because when I'm looking at my retirement fund, I'm like, damn. So personally, Trump was good for the individual. And that's more, to me, I look at it, the federal level is more so as individual. The state level is more of a collective, because it's where you live at, and it's going to affect, yes, it's going to affect you personally, but it does affect your community where you live at, taxes, school board, and all that other stuff. So, yeah, so he said, what do you have to lose? You ain't losing nothing with the Democrat. Well, you're losing, but if you stop voting for them, you may gain.
Right. Well, so on, goodness gracious, on Sunday, as part of the Oscars, I had this last week was very busy for me, because we had the 45th annual Ohio State Jazz Festival, and I'm the director of the program.
Black people there?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I
bring in a lot of.
Yeah, and I bring in a lot of black folks too.
Wait, so what? Where in Ohio? What city?
Columbus.
Oh, okay, I have family there.
Oh, okay.
Y'all don't look up my last name, honey, because it's the wrong side of family who I do not associate with. So you saw my last name. So if you get to Googling my last name and put my last name, Columbus, Ohio, I don't know none of those people. Just to let you know, I'm not affiliated with them.
All right. I'll try not to stalk you. So, I had a busy week, and concerts started on Wednesday and went all the way through Sunday. So on Sunday, we had the Heard Around the World.
Oh.
And it was late. It was like late on TV, and I was like half delirious. And I'd actually, when I...
Honey, it wasn't late. It was around 10 o'clock. What time you go to bed?
Well, it must have been a replay. So, see, I wasn't watching it. It must have been a replay.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife, sometimes she'll have something on a delay because she paused it for a long time. So I think what it was is that when I came in to, go to sleep or whatever, she had the TV on, and I didn't see the slap. I just saw like Will up there crying and stuff. When
he accepted his award. Yeah.
Well, when he accepted the award, and I was like, this just seems like, why does he keep apologizing and stuff? Like, I don't understand what's going on, because I didn't see what happened prior, right?
Apologizing to the wrong people.
Right. So then, the next morning, I was like, oh snap, what the heck is going on? And I almost did a live stream this morning early on the topic, but I decided I'm just going to wait until Thursday for my Thunder's thoughts to really kind of dive into this more deeply. But what are your initial thoughts about this whole event? It seemed like it went from 0 to 100 very quickly. It seems to me like there's something else brewing in the background, and that was the sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Because I don't take Will to be like, he doesn't seem to be like a crazy person to me.
Those are ones that sometimes are. But what I think, I was even watching the Oscars, right? Because I don't have television like that. I don't watch TV. But my father called me. He's retired. That's all he does, watch TV. He was like, "Oh, did you just see Will Smith smack Chris Rock on the Oscars? Was that real?" I said, "He did what?" I said, "That was probably fake. They acting." And I looked it up, and he was like, "All right, let me finish watching it, whatever." So, and by that time, it was like trending on Twitter. And I get on the phone with the judge. We were on the phone for a couple of hours. I had to pull him into the BS because he not into all that celebrity gossip tea stuff. And when I kept rewatching it, and like, I thought it was fake. And then it's like, okay, when he sat down, was like, keep your effing name out keep my wife's effing name out your mouth. And he said it twice. I'm like, okay, now he must be serious, because it was an awkward moment. It was crazy. It was weird. I'm like, why is this man upset? Because he said, "Jada, love you. I can't wait for you to be in G.I. Jane 2 because of her haircut." He didn't say anything about her having alopecia.
Right.
He's a comedian. Yeah, I have a whole bunch of white people that say far worse. And Will was laughing until he turned, and I guess he saw Jada roll her eyes, but the whole thing was awkward. It was uncalled for. It was unmanly. It was emotional. Will was being very emotional. He was being impulsive. And, you are a black man on the Oscars in a tuxedo acting a damn fool. And millions of people around the world seeing you do that. So black men in the media are always already displayed as being deviant, violent, impulsive, emotional. And you just displayed all those things in a minute.
Yeah.
He apologized today because right after that, you had all black women protect black women, that hashtag BS.
Oh, yeah.
And okay, but when you woke up today, reality hit your ass, and an Academy is investigating, and they're going to do a review. And you issue an apology because now it's like you was doing too much for no reason.
He was doing too much for no reason. I agree. Let's go.
A bald-headed hoe.
Oh no.
And I say that to say, because if you have an open marriage, you know, both of y'all, and that's what he did an interview, I think was with Gail or Oprah recently. He was like, we never cheat on each other. They know it, and that's one thing. So you can't say it wasn't infidelity because you both knew, but at the same time, you still have to do it with respect. So the people who Will was probably dealing with outside of Jada, I'm pretty sure she knew about. We don't know who they are. So why do we know who you was fucking and sucking?
And why was it the friend of
and you
one
made
of
a
your
whole
kids?
Show out of it with your husband sitting there? First it was with August, then was it a couple months after that it was with your husband, and then when people dig, it's like, okay, yeah, you were Jaden friend 2021 at the time, you know. It's why do we know? And you made your husband, that was embarrassing. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes when the cameras are off. We are seeing what you are giving us in front of the cameras, and what you gave us, you emasculated and disrespected your husband. You can't give us that and then you want to come back and explain, well, it was edited, this is what really happened, this is why it looked like he was crying, like he was hurt, but it wasn't, he was tired. He's an actor, so he should know to make sure that he is looking a certain way so that it won't come off that way, right? So the thing is, you do things for viewership, and this is to a lot of YouTubers too. A lot of people do things for viewership, no matter what they come off looking like or saying. And that's what I don't respect. And that's why these celebrities are weirdos and they should not be praised, you know, and they are not role models.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this thing is like Jap did an episode. He did a live stream it earlier. What was it called?
That was funny.
What was it called? The rage of the simp or something?
Yeah, the rage of the simp.
And he's always like over 1,000 live viewers in this thing. He had like 4,000 live viewers in there today. And I noticed that everywhere I was going, you get on TikTok, like every other video is about this event, right? So it's obviously something that's and I think it's going to have probably a lot of animation probably for a couple weeks. It'll probably die out after that, but yeah. So one thing that not a lot of folks are asking about this is, what about Chris?
Well, Chris is a heterosexual man, so he didn't press charges because I guess they asked him, do you want to? He was like, no. And he's a comedian and he's a professional. So I'm pretty sure
he took it straight to the chin like a champ.
Because I don't even think he really hit him that hard. And my thing is, but he's a professional, so you know how it is. He was like, damn, I just got the shit smacked out of me. Oh.
Right.
Yeah. So he said it, key, and then he looked to the side like what do y'all want to do? Commercial or whatever. And then he kind of kept going to the documentary. Because you've been in show business so long, they know how entertainment works, news, or how stuff is perceived in the camera. So he probably automatically knew when Will did that it was more embarrassing. It's going to be more embarrassing and backlash on Will than him.
Oh yeah. Now something that I've seen, just different people's sort of giving their 2 cents on this situation. One thing that has been said is that if Chris was a white comedian, that this would have been a whole different kind of dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe Will gets put in cuffs, you know, and hauled off, or, you know, any number of you know, other sort of issues. What do you think of that?
Yeah, he wouldn't have did it if it was a white man. Now, if it was a white man and he did, I would be like, go with.
Oh, oh.
I would have been like, yo, he crazy, but it was a white man, so he did it for all the black man that was hanged and blah blah blah. But it wasn't like, and you was not going to have that same energy if I keep moving around, because honey, my ass is numb in this little, you know, them little kindergarten seats that you have at the daycare that the kids sit in, the little hard. Like it'd be solid color red or green, them little hard little chairs. That's what I'm sitting in. I got a little cushion. It's not working, but anyway. Yeah, if that was Ricky, what's his name? Ricky Gervais. He always hosts the Golden Globes, and I think he hosted the Oscars. He said far worse. So I'm just like,
way worse.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, would you have smacked him, honey? First of all, that white man would have sued the shit out of you, because white people love to sue. I don't blame him, because I would have sued too. He would have sued you, and he would press charges. And he probably would be like, no, I didn't do it. It was the county, blah blah blah. So why is it so? And then going back to black people, so we are so easily disrespected. Not just black women, black men, because that black man was disrespected on national television worldwide. So why are we easily disrespected by our own and others? But it's more harmful when it's by our own.
You know, black men and black women don't seem to agree on much. And are there some things you think that can happen that would help us to get on the same page, so that we can sit down at the table, one party stops saying that they are the table, and we can have like conversations and maybe iron out some differences, especially with respect to
that I am the table? This woman from Newark, New Jersey, she wrote a book, and she was sitting in the audience on the Wendy show a couple of years back, and she was like, she asked Wendy, you know, Wendy going to ask for advice, and something was like, well, Wendy said, well, what do you bring, since you want this type of man? What do you bring to the table? And then she was like, I am the table. And then she started hashtagging it, blah, 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 blah. So that's how that came about. And then other people took it.
Yeah. But what do you think? Do you think there's some things that maybe aren't happening right now that maybe could happen with a greater regularity that could help the situation? We don't tend to agree on politics. We tend to have a completely different experience with the education system, with, you know, the academy, you know, universities and colleges. It's completely different experiences in corporate America, completely different experiences. Is there something that you think can be done to help us to understand each other better, and to maybe forge a new future, something that's not what it is now?
I just think people need to change their mindset. That's a loaded question, and it's not a one trick pony. It's not a one remedy thing. It's a lot of things that needs to happen, but it has to start within that individual. A lot of women think that, you know, men have to do certain things for them or with them in order for them to be happy, and not understanding you have to make yourself happy. It's not nobody's responsibility. Men do too. I mean, and men, and we're talking about black people now. Men need to be taught how to love a woman properly. They're not. And maybe because they don't see it, their mother are not teaching them, because usually it's the moms that teach you about caring and love, and then it's the father that teach you about protection and providing and stuff like that, right? But
Discipline.
yeah, and discipline. You can kind of learn about, how to treat a woman. You can learn how to treat a woman from your father, but the actual feeling of love, that kind of is molded by the mom. So, if you have a mother who's bitter, or I don't know, who don't know how to love herself, that does spill down to your children. If the dad is not there, and then some men, well, it's the mother's fault why the father's not there. It doesn't matter. That man still laid down, had a kid. It's not always the woman's fault, because that's your responsibility as a man. But it really starts with the individual. And when we talk about reparations, for instance, right, it's not just a check, because everyone don't deserve a check. Everyone is not going to get a check. There are people who deserve checks, right, that you can actually trace. However,
I'll take a check.
Right. But if you qualify for a check now, but what we do need as part of reparations, mental health advocacy, not just on a state level and a federal level, local city level, from K through 12, that mental health advocacy needs to look a certain way, and adulthood mental health advocacy, mental health wellness needs to be distributed out in a certain way as well. So that's very important. And this whole thing just coming out of the pandemic and the COVID or whatever, a lot of people are dealing with a lot of mental health issues, all Americans, right? But when we talk about the trauma of Black people here in America and what we've been through, ADOS/FBA Black Americans, that's a lot of mental trauma that we pass down consciously and subconsciously from generation to generation. So it takes more than a check.
Yeah. Now, this focus on mental health and suggestion and insistence that people get therapy is something that Kevin Samuels has frequently suggested.
So
now I know that you don't care for Kevin.
But why? Because he suggested it. What does that mean? Because has he ever went to a therapist? Has he ever seek mental health wellness? And you can't sit up here and tell what somebody need if you haven't done it yourself, right? So, and I've been to a therapist. We all should go to a therapist, right? I didn't go enough. We all should be going to a therapist probably for like 3 years straight, because it's not, you can't have, how your insurance pays for like 5 sessions.
Yep.
That's when you just started cracking on the surface, the top surface. So you need like 100 sessions, but insurance company don't pay for, again, access, resources, right? So a lot of people pay for it out their pocket because insurance only pays for 5. And there are people who can afford to see a therapist on a regular or an analyst. Black people, when you look at the wealth and income, you can't afford it. That definitely has to be part of reparations, to where we have free access to mental health. But just going back to what you were saying, what Kevin said, I really don't give a damn what Kevin suggested. Especially, and this is anybody, if you have not done it yourself, you can't suggest nothing to me.
Now he claims that he has done therapy.
For how long?
Well, and I don't know that. I've done therapy myself.
Share all the details. I can tell you I've been to therapy, so you need therapy. But only been in 5 sessions.
Well, I've had some challenges with anxiety.
Mm-hmm. So do I.
And it's interesting because I had some things happen when I was, in my 20s, and
what happened?
I didn't. Huh?
I hear an echo. I hope that's not me. Were you raped?
No.
It's not funny.
No, I wasn't. Well, I don't mean to make light of it.
Okay.
But when I was in my 20s, I had some burnouts what I thought were just sort of being burnt out. Because I work a lot, and my whole philosophy of, rest is basically you rest when you can't work anymore. So basically I work all day long, all the way up until, and then I just pass out, then I wake up, okay, wherever I'm at, and keep working, right? And so I thought that because I wasn't resting adequately, and I think that did play into it, that was the sort of source of the issue. But it turns out that, I have some family history, and I didn't even consider that as possible. But I had some family history that, some folks that struggled with like depression, and anxiety and depression are closely related. But I'll tell you, the worst experience I ever had in my life was, it was right after I had gone in to the, what was it? It was for my oral and comprehensive exam for my doctorate. I go into the room, I do all the stuff, I need to do. I couldn't sleep the night before. That's, I had a lot invested, and of course I'm pretty anxious about it. Fine. I go in, it's a great success. They shake my hand, say congratulations. Great. So now, you'd think that, oh, I'm going to sleep great now. No anxiety. Oh, it's just peaceful, everything else. But my fight or flight got stuck on. And so for literally a month and a half, I could not sleep.
That's
a month and a
not
half, I
good.
couldn't sleep. Now, when people say, I can't sleep, when they say that, what they mean is that they didn't get the 7 or 8 hours that they usually get, but they did actually sleep. When I say I didn't sleep, I literally could not sleep. Every time I tried to lay down, I'd start having these panic attacks, and I'd have to get back up. And
Did you take any medicine to help you sleep?
so I went to a therapist, and he had some similar challenges. And so part of what was really helpful is just his sort of personal experience with the stuff that I was discussing with him. And so he gave me some strategies, some meditation techniques. One of the things that he had me do is I needed to get into a regular
Regimen,
routine. Yeah, like a bedtime routine. I've never had a bedtime routine. Like I said, I just work until I pass out, and then I slept so good because I didn't have nothing left. But now I have a routine. It's very specific. It's always the same.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can go to sleep without the routine, but that's not the point of the routine. The point of the routine is that if you are anxious, if you are starting to have some issues, the routine can help to calm you down, right? But I did get on some sleeping medication for a short period of time to help me sleep, and then, and then I weaned myself off that. I mean, this is like a couple years ago now.
Did you have kids at the time too, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were they little kids?
Yeah. So my son is 8.
Okay.
And and this was like on the heels of driving 12 hours a week additional, just going back and forth to school. I would tend to agree that if we do get some sort of reparations, there should be some sort of not just mental health, but some sort of healthcare period associated with that. I think that would be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking on the relationship thing, there's a growing number of black women that call themselves divestors. And I was was on Facebook, and shout out to Dr. Tiasan Johnson. He posts a lot of advocacy sort of content for black men and boys, and he posted something from Coffee and Cream Talk, and it was about Ketanji Brown Jackson and who she married and why it was important for him to be a white man. So here, I want to read some of this, and then I want to get your sort of your reaction from it. So Coffee and Cream Talk, and this is from March 24th. So they start by saying, "Happy Thursday. If you learned nothing else by watching Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation hearing," and of course, one of the main pictures that they have there is of her husband kissing her on the forehead, right? "I sincerely hope you learned that whom you choose to marry matters. It matters. It always matters. It especially matters if you are an educated, career-focused, career-driven black woman. Say what you will, think what you will, wish what you will, but Judge Jackson wouldn't be in the position she's in if she'd married a black man. Why? Because black males simply don't rise to the level of black women. And because black women often outshine their black male counterparts. It's just not in the cards for black women to be this successful with a black spouse in tow. And ultimately, if a black male is successful and he actually has a black wife, he expects her to take a back seat to support him, because he always feels that you are his competition. He is competing against you. Judge Jackson's husband, Dr. Patrick Jackson, is on her level in every way. And these black dudes are piping hot mad because they know they could never. Ketanji and Patrick met while they were both students at Harvard. He is quintessential Boston Brahmin, Boston elite, Boston's traditional upper class, Mayflower lineage, and he is the sixth generation. I'm not sure.
Mayflower. She said
Perhaps.
Mayflower.
Yeah. And he is the sixth generation of his family to graduate from Harvard. So no, Patrick was never interested in competing with Ketanji because he had his own. And because he had his own, he had no problem encouraging his wife to shine her brightest light. He was always her biggest cheerleader. It goes on and on. I'm not going to read any more
Who
of
is
this.
this person?
This is from a divester group on Facebook called Coffee and Cream Talk.
Well, that's a divestors group. So everything they talk about is going to be about why they divest and the positives of it. And, so it's going to be just very biased.
Right.
That doesn't make it true. That's just her opinion. It does matter who you marry, not skin color per se, but, marrying the right partner to understand each other, whether it's careers and stuff like that. But majority of black people marry another black person. There are a lot of successful black women with successful black husbands and vice versa. So her whole premise is incorrect, but that's how she feels. That's what she believes. She threw in the damn Mayflower, but I'm like, honey, when the Mayflower came over here, you were in chains, Miss Thing. And if you were a native, you were killed and so when that Mayflower thing, that's mental slavery right there. Her whole dissertation is mental slavery.
Yeah. So of course this is it's also partially frustrating because so it's, first of all, it's not true. Secondly, aspects of it, or the perception of whatever this person's talking about, there are 20 20,000 fewer black men in the academy than black females. I'm talking about professors, faculty members. Due to an education system that doesn't serve black boys and an incentive structure in the academy that credits black women twice and black men once. Check 2 boxes versus 1 box means that more black women are hired. Diversity and inclusion in this way is very much responsible for excluding black men. So the system clearly has been set up in a way that has promoted black women as far as the education system goes. And then, but this person, they're not concerned or care about that aspect of this, but rather point out issues that, first of all, are not accurate, but secondly, almost treat it as though black women are just better than black men. And we just haven't worked hard enough. We just haven't done what was necessary for us to, as she said, rise to the level of black women. I know so many
when she says that, that means that you are putting white people, particularly white men, at the top, as a model of what a man should be and the level of what man should be reaching is this white man. That's what you're doing. So, because, if you're saying that black men just haven't reached a level, what level compared to who? Compared to that white man who you want to be with? So, when we look at the Ketanji Brown Jackson husband, you giving him all these praises, you basically saying black men cannot match up to that. And they should be matching up to that because that is the epitome of a man. See, that's a problem, because that is saying that, this white person is the standard, and that's just not true. So.
Yeah, I was, again, this is from some divestors YouTube channel, and the women were, one of them in particular was talking about how masculine and how aroused and turned on they were when they saw white officers basically beating down a black man, and putting him in cuffs. Because that was
how many followers they have in this group?
A lot of followers. This is one of the things about this, and folks like Cynthia G, who has advocated for, figure out what the sex is going to be of your unborn child, and if it's male, we're talking about black, and if it's male, then abort it. There's enough. I'm saying this because there's a growing number. It's not a fringe. A lot of the opinions expressed, even if they are by folks that are way off in that direction, have been somewhat embraced by sort of mainstream folks, and they don't really know where those ideas or those thoughts come from. But this stuff is becoming more and more part of this sort of conversation and this sort of anti-black misandry.
I just think that it goes both ways. It's not just black women doing, black men does it too. And that is the problem with black people. So I can't, this is just what I'm saying, like me personally, I don't just advocate for one black gender, boy, man. Right. I'm black people. So you see the divestment groups, comments or different topics Cynthia G may have done. I see it from black men as well. Black men do the same thing.
But I don't hear as actually I've never heard a black content creator, black male content creator advocate that if it's a girl, abort it.
No, but they say that, white, Hispanic, Indian, other is better than black. And they promote that.
SYSB.
So, and then you have men going your own way. That's not even taking no woman. So again, and honestly, that whole manosphere, it's always been toxic. It's always been it's not valuable. So I'm not going to sit up here and kick a person like Cynthia G or divestment groups back in without kicking up the men who are doing negative things about Black women. It's a Black thing that is going on, not by everybody, but it's a good enough of content out there that is being distributed out on social media that is negative towards our relationship that we should be building in a positive way, but it's going in a negative way. So, and I don't talk negative about other content creators because it's just bad for business. Just don't listen to them. You know what I'm saying? If you disagree, just don't listen. But however, just the whole concept is not just with one person. Somebody commented under my video about the divestment of, Black men are not responsible fathers. They don't take care of their kids. They just want to get high and buy sneakers. And I read her comment during one of my shows, and I had the panel reply to that, and yeah, I didn't agree with her, but I wanted the men to talk about it, but it is, but it is a problem, and it's coming from both sides.
Do you think
now
that,
I don't say that you or other people should not highlight it and say this is wrong what women are doing, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying there are people who talk negative about Black women, and there are people who talk negative about Black men, and that is a problem.
do you think that conversation can be part of a solution for this? Do you think that people, even those that have some of these more extreme sort of views, do you think that them getting together and possibly being able to have a conversation, do you think that that can be part of somewhat of a solution for this?
It can be, if you are respectful, if you are coming with the intention of building, networking in a positive direction. You know what I'm saying? If you're doing it for the culture, if you're doing it for the race, positive, respectful from a loving aspect of it. But if you're just coming to argue, if you're just coming to prove that you're right, it's useless. Like, what is your intention? What is your intent? It's all about a person's intentions. If your intentions is just to argue and go back and forth and defend what you are saying, then we don't need to be talking. But if you really feel as though it is an issue that needs to be discussed and needs some solutions, yeah, we should be having these conversations.
Yeah.
Because I'm not here to convince you to change how you think or feel. You're a grown person. But the fact is that if we both agree that there's a problem,
right, then
let's agree on the different solutions that could help, rectify the problem.
Yeah, part of what has made me interested in a lot of these sort of relationship topics is, I remember what it was like for me, finding an adequate partner and all of the frogs I had to kiss and all of the sort of negative experiences that I had. And whatever I experienced is way worse now than it was, when I was coming up. And my son is 8. What is it going to be like when he gets of age? If it is even possible to be part of a solution, part of at least maybe changing the general direction of a lot of these sort of contentious this contentious squabbling, if possible. And so I want to be part of that solution for his sake. And I think all of us, look, I'm 47. So it's and I'm married. So
Right.
great.
I mean, but it's, you're married, you're active in your son's life, you're married to a good woman who's a good mother. Your son should be all right. Tom's his generation is totally different. I have 4 grandkids. They are born into technology. We were introduced to it. So technology changed how people date. That's just how life rolls. When technology advances, the way we live changes. But you know, being a decent person, being respectful, knowing who you are, working on yourself, being accountable, being responsible, whether you're a man or a woman, that doesn't change. But if you allow technologies such as social media to corrupt you, maybe because you did not have a decent upbringing or parents that actually taught you certain things that should have been taught, or maybe your parents were bitter. So, I don't, but there's certain things in life that would never change, as far as you as an individual. But society, when we talk about technologies, the way we live changes, the way we communicate with each other changes. But that doesn't give you the right to be disrespectful, you know, um, to be nasty, or to that doesn't give me, it doesn't give me a right to hate. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
there's just certain things as a human being that we have control over no matter what changes in society. And so specifically when we're talking about black people and relationships, I do not like talking about relationships on YouTube. Like being a content creator, I had to, that wasn't my first intention. Like I came to that resolution. I came to that conclusion that I don't like talking about relationships, because you are a grown person. If you don't know how to get into a relationship or maintain a healthy relationship, you need to be off social media and go figure yourself out. But to me, it's just so tedious. But to have the conversation of black men and black women and just communicating with each other, that's a relationship, just trying to communicate and not
Right.
being able to communicate respectfully. That's a problem, and that's what is happening. So forget about the love thing, husband wife or girlfriend boyfriend. Just me and you communicating on a respectful level. That's the problem that we're having, because that's, you're seeing the opposite of that.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that you'd like to plug or uh, talk about or ask me before we conclude?
um I don't know, because I did a show earlier today, and sometimes,
Mm.
like, I need to learn how to unplug, because social media is not real. It's not. And
Yeah.
this is one of the things what I do like about it, being a content creator, is understanding that, you know, understanding what goes on behind the scenes is, just all this is not real, right? So it was like, what do you want to give out into society? So if you have an Instagram, if you have a Facebook, if you have a YouTube channel, what do you want to give out? And that is the luxury of technology, right? We have the ability to give out to the world and to society whatever we want, whatever kind of content. So if you want to talk about why you should divest, you know what I'm saying? Why you should divest from black men, then I got to look at you like, okay, why you want to give that energy, that content out? Why you want to push that content out? Like, what happened to you? What did you experience, right? And you have this strong following of women, that are easily convinced. So I don't know. I just think that I don't really have questions for you. I like to, and I would say this: I don't like doing interviews, because it's just not beneficial when we're talking about YouTube. Because first of all, I'm not popular like that, and I'd rather have a discussion, because I love to hear other people's perspectives and thoughts on things that's different from mine. And I think that's more beneficial for us to just build, some dialect, and wherever that may lead. And then two, interviews could be personal, and a lot of people use that just to get into your business. Not you, but the people who may listen. Like, you don't need to know if I'm married or in a relationship. People don't need to know my dating history. For what? Is that gonna put food on your table? Like, is that gonna help you in life, knowing the type of man that I like to date? No. But if
maybe somebody wants a shot.
No, because I would never date someone off of social media.
But I'm also looking at your shirt though too.
Huh? What does it say?
Unless God sent you, I'm unavailable.
Yeah, somebody sent me this. She has this is Elro. Elro.co. She gave me some of her sweaters, merchandise. So yeah. But again, so the interview thing, like, people put too much of their business on social media, especially young people, and not so much our generation. Unless you see people on Facebook, they got to tell where they're going or whatever. But people talk about their emotions and what they're intimately going through emotionally on social media, and people don't care. People don't know you. It's like, why are you sharing all that? So but I love to have a good dialect conversation with people, respectful, and I just think, in closing, like, we all have an ability to put out something good out here in society, right? If you choose to. You don't need thousands of followers. So it's like, what are you doing to help push the Black race in a positive direction? So that those divestment groups and all the negative stuff that may have came out of the manosphere, whatever, that's not helping, but whatever, to each his own. Why? Remember that woman that did that article in what was it, Elle magazine or something?
Yeah.
She put your name in it. Why was she upset with you? Like, you are not rude. You are not, what do you call it? Difficult. Like, you're nice. Like, what the problem did she have with you?
Well,
I didn't understand. Sometimes I think, and this is what I'm saying, let me just focus on women for a minute. Because sometimes I do go in on women a little bit on my show. I just black out because bitches get on my nerve. And I know that because I'm a woman. But and men, sometimes y'all gullible. But I didn't understand, like, okay, sometimes women do things for attention. And I think you were one of the people she singled out. And I think it wasn't Dr. T. Hassan that she mentioned.
No.
You didn't mention.
No, you mentioned. Yeah, I'll tell you, she could have, if she had done some research, she could have mentioned a number of professors that are actually actively participating in the manosphere. She could have done that, but she wasn't clever enough to do that. I think what she did was, because I interviewed Mr. Palmer, and we were talking about child support and stuff.
Yeah.
And shout out to Mr. Palmer. And I think what happened was, she just did a search, and then my name came up, and or she just started watching one of his videos, and he's very supportive. So every time he sees me in the chat, he mentions me.
Okay.
He tells people to go to my channel.
So she singled you out, and then too, I think because you were a soft target, like, he's not aggressive like a Jap, because if she would mention Jap, honey, and he did a show on her, you see what I'm saying? So, and then sometimes women do that. They pick a man who they know that is not going to bite back,
Well,
I'm not saying that you're a punk or nothing like that, but it's like you like, listen, I'm not going to argue with this woman back and forth or whatever, but that's just not your makeup. But even Mr. Palmer, he's not disrespectful.
No.
And he's not.
I mean, he uses colorful language.
It doesn't matter
thing
when
and all like
women
that,
are
but he's
up
not
there. He's not. When women are up there, or when he's on somebody else's platform, even when because he's talking from his experience. And this is another thing: people are not used to hearing Black men and their experience, their side of the story. Yeah. So, and women are painted now in society as what we say is the truth, and that's not the truth, so.
Yeah, there was a comment on my, so, I interviewed Jap, and what was the comment? Somebody put, because the name of that interview was, but is the straight, free-thinking Black man protected? That was the name of the interview. Mm-hmm. And someone, of course, they didn't watch the video. It's obvious that they didn't. They didn't watch the video. They says, oh, so is free thinking another way to say homophobic and, misogynistic or something like this? I'm like, really? You didn't even watch the video and you jump in with this kind of stuff. That's the way that I took being mentioned in Elle magazine. Someone she didn't mention any of my work. I mean, I'm a recording artist. I've been, putting records out since I was 14.
I read that and I felt it was empty. And then she goes on and saying that she was dating a man via Zoom.
It's totally a pudding.
It was so weird.
I'll tell you, I think that what happened was she took the article to her editor, and the editor said, but it doesn't have enough juice in it. Do you have something that, well, there is this tenured professor at Ohio State, and, it's a big school and prestigious and stuff like this. And it's like, well, let's put his name in there.
Yeah.
Now, I did do a follow-up. To being mentioned in there, a response to that. And I said what I thought about it. And I also invited her, and I'm inviting her now. Mm-hmm. If she'd like to sit down and actually have a conversation, then I'm willing to do that. She painted me as though I was some sort of like a shadowy figure that was trying to lure unsuspecting, innocent men. No. Oh. No, of course not. she's never going to respond. Right. That wasn't the purpose of doing that. And when you see an article like that with such a lack of I mean, what was it? Aaron Magruder, who was a PhD candidate, I think at Indiana University, who has done some hit pieces on the Black manosphere in particular. If you read his work, it's very shoddy academic work. Like, his desire is to paint things a certain way. He doesn't actually want to know what actually is going on.
And this is the thing, because people who are in academia, people think, oh, well, he's in academia. That doesn't mean what he says is true. But they want you to believe that. And a lot of times they write it as if it is true. I had professors in college. That's the first time I heard about intersectionality. And there he's explaining it and he's making it seem like this is true. And as he's talking about it, I'm like, that sounds like some bullshit. Now I could, and I'm like, I'm paying all this money. You could say that, but so you can't treat me like I'm some elementary school person. No, because I'm paying your salary, whether you tenure or not. But still, it wasn't a disrespectful to him. It was just that whole intersectionality. That's the first I said, this is what intersectionality means. That's just some bullshit, because again, you could flip it to any trajectory that you wanted, which is nonsense. You could create your own narrative with intersectionality, and that's the problem. But one thing I do want to say about that article with her, and the problem, and this is going back to women, and Black women fall victim to this. You make yourself end up looking stupid because you don't do the proper research, and then when you talk about what you're doing, dating someone via Zoom, but you're calling this person a weirdo. I was reading and I'm like, Miss, you look crazy. Who dates via Zoom? So anything she said after that, I didn't believe her. I didn't, I didn't take her seriously. And that is the problem.
Yeah,
Women do too much to where people are not going to take you seriously.
Yeah, and she had some like well-placed expressions, as if she actually had a conversation with someone that actually was an acolyte, was some sort of manosphere acolyte, and had certain talking points. She claimed that he said certain things in a particular way, and the thing is that the stuff that she claimed that he said was so cookie cutter, and so like copy and paste, stuff, that it's like nobody, I mean, anybody that has sense would not actually admit, even if they thought that they would not tell somebody that. They would not tell somebody that they potentially would be interested in dating that. That would be the dumbest person on earth to do that. And I guess it's possible that there's some idiot out there that would, share all the secrets or whatever to the person that he's trying to fool. I don't know. It's just, the whole thing was just, is just crazy.
Weird. All right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for
You do
for
an interview
coming.
like a jazz person, like smooth, rhythmic, laid back.
Yeah, I just like having interesting conversations. We don't have to agree, but just sharing information, and I take each conversation as an opportunity to learn something. I'm not responsible for the other person learning something. They can take the opportunity or not. That's fine. But I am responsible if I learn, and it doesn't matter who it is that I'm talking to, and what kind of language they use, or what kind of expressions they use, or whatever bias they have. That doesn't matter.
Right.
And I try to do that, and so I really enjoy having conversations, and I most certainly have enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I gotta have you
All
on my
right.
platform soon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll do it anytime. You let me know. Alrighty. Well,
Thank
we'll see you
you.
back then.
All right.
All right. I'll see you.